The moment Amy Slaton disappeared from TLC-related plans, fans felt it before anyone said a word. No trailer tease, no soft exit. One week she was part of the conversation, next week silence. And then the whispers started. This was the moment everything tilted. Not loud, not dramatic, but sudden enough to make people pause mid-scroll. Something serious happened behind closed doors, and the speed of the fallout made people uneasy. TLC does not rush. So why this time? At first, the signs felt small. A post missing here. A public appearance skipped there. Viewers who follow closely noticed the gap before the headlines did. In my opinion, the shock was not removal alone, it was how fast the distance showed up. Networks usually wait. They test reactions. They manage optics. This move felt different, clean, immediate, final in tone, even without a statement. And when fans realized Amy was no longer attached to future plans, the mood shifted from curiosity to concern. Here is where tension builds. Amy built her place by being open, messy, emotional, human. So when the door shut without explanation, people started filling in blanks. Allegedly, whatever crossed the line did not stay private long inside corporate walls. And when a network known for stretching storylines suddenly pulls back, people ask the same thing. What went wrong so badly that waiting was not an option? And right when viewers thought this was a quiet pause, one detail surfaced that flipped the entire story on its head, because once that detail landed, everything about Amy's exit looked less like a break and more like a decision made under pressure. Before any of this turned heavy, Amy Slaton felt like the heartbeat of the show. When 1000 LB Sisters first hit screens, she came off open, awkward, funny in a way that felt unfiltered. She laughed at herself before anyone else could. She talked about food, fear, family, and failure without polishing the edges. People did not tune in for perfection. They tuned in because Amy felt like someone you knew. Her early seasons carried a strange comfort. Watching Amy push through basic goals made viewers root harder. Weight loss was part of the story, but the pull came from her honesty. She admitted when she messed up. She celebrated small wins. She cried when things went sideways. And she did all of it without pretending she had it together. That built trust. In my opinion, audiences were not watching a reality star. They were watching a person trying. The humor helped. Amy cracked jokes at the worst moments. She teased Tammy. She teased herself. Those moments softened the hard parts. And when she reached milestones, fans felt proud in a weird, personal way. Like watching a cousin finally catch a break. Social media followed the same tone. Casual posts, raw captions, no polish, no distance. That approach made people protective of her. And this is the part people forget. The reason the fall later felt so personal. The audience was emotionally invested long before any trouble surfaced. As seasons passed, the pressure crept in quietly. Filming intensified. Expectations grew. Amy's life became content. Marriage, motherhood, conflict, stress, all of it played out publicly. The same openness that built her fan base also meant there was nowhere to hide on hard days. Some moments felt rushed. Some reactions felt sharper. At the time, many brushed it off as stress, new responsibilities, normal chaos. Looking back, there were flashes that did not fit the early tone. Short patience, emotional swings on camera, moments where joy looked forced instead of natural. Nothing explosive, nothing headline-worthy, but enough to feel off. Most viewers missed it because the show trained them to expect mess. That is why the warning sign did not land when it appeared. It blended into the noise, and that overlooked moment matters more now than it did back then. This is where the tone changes. Not loudly, not all at once. The shift shows up in patterns. On-screen moments feel tighter. Social posts feel heavier. Amy's world keeps expanding, and the margin for mistakes shrinks fast. Fame does not pause real life. It speeds it up. Every choice gets watched. Every reaction gets clipped. And responsibility stops being private the second cameras stay rolling. You could see it in how conversations played out. Less patience, more defensiveness. Not dramatic blow-ups, but tension under the surface. When pressure stacks, behavior speaks before words do. Amy still showed up. She still filmed. She still posted. But the tone felt different. Fans noticed, even if they could not explain why. Something felt off, like joy was being performed instead of felt. Social media added fuel. Support came with judgment. Praise came with expectations. When Amy struggled, the margin for grace felt thinner. Viewers who once rooted quietly now debated loudly. And once the audience shifts from cheering to monitoring, the weight hits harder. In my opinion, the hardest part of reality fame is losing the ability to struggle without an audience narrating it for you. And right here, when pressure met visibility, the safety net started to disappear without anyone noticing. Public behavior kept drawing lines. Missed appearances, inconsistent updates, moments where silence spoke louder than posts. No accusations needed, no rumors required. Patterns do the work. TLC as a network has seen chaos before. They usually wait, they stretch stories, they manage fallout. So when things stop stretching, when distance replaces negotiation, you know, patience is wearing thin. Responsibility becomes the pivot point. Fame does not erase it. Motherhood does not pause it. Being relatable does not excuse it. Amy's actions, as seen publicly, began carrying consequences faster than before. Not because viewers changed, but because the stakes did. A network does not move quickly unless something forces its hand. This is where everything tightens, where silence stops being neutral, where choices stop being flexible. Because once TLC starts pulling back instead of leaning in, the story stops being about growth and starts being about limits. And the next move made one thing clear. Whatever patience existed behind the scenes was running out. This is where the speed picks up and the mood hardens. Because once a situation moves from personal mess to corporate risk, emotion stops driving decisions. Policy does. TLC has built an entire brand on chaos, awkward relationships, public meltdowns, long-running controversies. They usually sit in the storm and wait it out. So when distance shows up instead of damage control, people should pay attention. TLC is not a person. It is a machine built to protect itself. First, when issues stay messy but manageable, the machine absorbs them. When issues threaten advertisers, schedules, or legal exposure, the response changes. Amy's situation, in my opinion, landed in a category TLC treats differently. Not louder drama, not viral chaos, risk. Past controversies on the network dragged on for seasons. Viewers watched consequences stretch out slowly. This time felt sharper, faster, quiet but firm. That difference matters. Brand safety works like this. Once a situation threatens trust with sponsors or creates unpredictable outcomes, the safest move becomes distance, not punishment, containment. And this is the moment viewers realize the story shifted from entertainment to damage control. And there was no turning back. Legal exposure plays a role people rarely think about. When behavior creates uncertainty around filming schedules, liability, or public responsibility, networks tighten fast. Silence replaces storylines. Appearances disappear. Contracts get reviewed. The audience never sees those meetings, but the effects show up quickly on screen and online. This reframes the narrative. TLC does not move like a friend. It moves like a corporation under pressure. That does not make the decision heartless or heroic. It makes it predictable. Amy's situation crossed from relatable struggle into territory where waiting created more risk than action. Fans feel shocked because they expected the usual slow burn. TLC did not offer one at the same time. Public backlash became part of the calculation. Online reaction was no longer unified. Support, it fractured. Concern mixed with criticism. Once the audience splits, networks stop leaning into personalities and start protecting the product. Amy did not lose relevance. The environment around her changed. This is where blame gets tricky. Some point at TLC for pulling away. Others point at Amy for behavior shown publicly. Both sides miss the overlap. Corporations protect brands. People live real lives. When those collide, something breaks. Amy Slaton built trust by being open. TLC built profit by packaging openness. When the risk outweighed the reward, the partnership cracked. So the question shifts. Is responsibility about who acted first, or about who created a system where pressure always wins? Once the headlines hit, the fallout did not stay professional. It turned personal fast. Families feel pressure first, long before public statements land. Tammy's role shifted overnight. On screen, she had been a partner in struggle. Off screen, she became a witness to consequences she could not control. Public posts showed support without explanation. No long captions. No drama-fueled replies. Silence carried more weight than words. Fans picked sides quickly. Some leaned into empathy. They talked about stress, burnout, and how fast life changed for Amy. Others pushed accountability. They pointed to responsibility, choices, and boundaries. The split was loud and emotional. Comment sections turned into arguments. Support posts got challenged. Criticism got defended. Nobody agreed on the line. And right here, the story stops feeling like television and starts feeling uncomfortably real for everyone watching. What stood out was how Tammy handled the noise. Based on what aired and what she shared publicly, she did not perform outrage or distance. She stayed measured, present. That restraint said plenty. When someone avoids spectacle during chaos, it often signals how heavy things feel behind the scenes. The audience reaction kept swinging. One day, sympathy dominated. The next day, frustration took over. That back and forth revealed something deeper. Viewers were not arguing about facts. They were arguing about values. Should struggles soften consequences, or should visibility raise the bar? That question never gets answered cleanly. Family dynamics sit right in the middle. Support does not equal agreement. Love does not cancel responsibility. Watching siblings navigate public judgment while handling private stress is uncomfortable because it mirrors real life. No one wins cleanly. No one walks away untouched. The emotional cost spreads wider than one person. Kids, parents, siblings, they all absorb the impact. Fans often forget that while debating accountability online. From the outside, decisions look simple. From inside, they fracture routines, trust, and safety. By the end of this wave, nothing feels settled. Amy faces consequences. TLC steps back. Tammy stands close without controlling the outcome. Fans keep arguing. And the hardest question lingers without an answer. What does accountability look like when the person involved is still human, still loved, and still struggling in public? Here's where the focus turns inward without pointing fingers. Pressure shows itself in patterns. On screen, you notice repeated tension. Posts come fast. Reactions are clipped. Moments of calm disappear quickly. Fans interpret these flashes, sometimes exaggerating, sometimes missing context, but the effect is the same. People start to read behavior like a story, anticipating the next twist. Media thrives on these narratives. Relapse, mistakes, setbacks, they get attention. Not because someone wants pain, but because the arc feels complete. Audiences unconsciously track highs and lows. When a favorite struggles publicly, it triggers a mix of empathy and judgment. You root, but you also watch carefully for evidence of failure. It is human, it is compelling, and it explains why reactions online swing so sharply. Public behavior shows patterns, not intentions. Quick posts, tension-filled conversations, abrupt changes in tone, all visible. Fans interpret them emotionally, which adds momentum. This is why Amy's story escalated quickly. Every observable choice became a signal. Every lapse, visible or subtle, added fuel. That does not excuse, but it explains why audiences felt shock before understanding context. And here's the twist most people miss. The instinct to judge fast is exactly what makes the story feel bigger than it is. Watching unfold, it is easy to think consequences are about morality or character. But what patterns show is context and pressure. Long-running exposure, high stakes, a constant public mirror. These factors create reactions anyone could have. Behavioral insights show the intensity comes from environment as much as choice. Relapse. Narratives in media often follow this rhythm. Rise, slip, spectacle, reflection. Amy's arc mirrored it on multiple levels. Public and private lines blur when cameras, social media, and deadlines converge. What fans interpreted as shocking was often predictable behavior under sustained scrutiny. Awareness of that does not reduce impact, it reframes it. You start to ask, what did the system allow to happen before any ban or headline? How much of the visible drama is the result of structure rather than will? The reversal hits when you realize responsibility is layered. Initial instincts push blame toward the individual, but observable patterns suggest broader forces shape the trajectory long before TLC made its move. Choices were real, consequences were real, but the pressure cooker had been running quietly for years. That changes the way you see the first shock, the first posts, the first reactions, and even the network's response. The moment a network pulls the plug, the ripple goes far beyond a single headline. For Amy, a ban does not just mean missing camera time. It changes contracts, halts projects, freezes public visibility. Streams of potential deals slow. Sponsors hesitate. Even loyal fans experience the absence differently because what they loved becomes fragmented. Fame does not pause. It either evolves or fades. Silence from the brand adds weight. When a network steps back, absence fills the space. Social media guesses, rumors circulate, narratives split. Viewers notice the gap more than the reasoning behind it. That pause creates tension. It amplifies speculation. And in reality television, speculation is the engine that keeps attention alive. But here is what most miss about the ban. It is not purely punitive. TLC's move can shield Amy from ongoing exposure during a high-risk period. Without cameras, the pressure decreases. Fewer public demands. Less scrutiny on every choice, post, or reaction. In some ways, stepping away protects the personal space viewers rarely consider. The professional consequences remain real. Reality TV thrives on consistent presence. Audience attention shifts quickly. Shows must pivot storylines or risk losing coherence. Amy's absence forces producers to rethink dynamics, while she recalibrates her public and private life. That dual effect is a powerful but tense reset. Counterpoints matter because reality TV decisions are rarely simple. Fans see personalities, but networks navigate contracts, sponsorships, and long-term brand perception. Protecting a star's personal health is sometimes inseparable from protecting the brand. TLC's choice may feel abrupt, but the environment around the show is carefully managed to reduce both legal and reputational fallout. Viewers are left with unanswered questions. What does a comeback look like in a world where visibility drives opportunity? How much of public sympathy survives without regular appearances? And when the cameras return, who decides if the arc continues or if the story has already been defined by absence? The next chapter is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The consequences are bigger than one episode or one headline, and the way forward will test relationships, reputation, and resilience in ways that audiences rarely see up close. Recovery does not follow a script. For Amy, it means navigating public scrutiny while making real choices behind the scenes. Cameras are gone, but the spotlight lingers online. Every post, every comment, every headline becomes part of a story she cannot fully control. That pressure shapes decisions as much as personal effort does. The focus shifts to behavior, not identity. Fans and critics alike react to visible actions: how she communicates, how she engages, how she manages boundaries. The narrative is still unfolding, and small steps carry outsized weight. Absence from television does not erase responsibility. It reframes it. Choices matter more when visibility is concentrated in social media and public memory rather than episodic airing. Empathy comes from seeing the challenge clearly. Rebuilding in real life under constant observation is complex. It involves reflection, support from family, and measured interaction with an audience that has already judged, debated, and sometimes vilified. Public recovery is a negotiation between personal growth and perception management. Accountability remains central. Slips or lapses are noted, amplified, and dissected. Fans often conflate empathy with permission. Reality does not bend to comfort. Learning, adjusting, and maintaining boundaries is what matters. That focus creates a path forward that is fragile but real. The story is unfinished. Control over the narrative has shifted. Headlines may fade, but public memory persists. Amy's next moves will define the arc more than speculation ever could. The audience watches, waiting, uncertain. And that uncertainty, that delicate balance between visible choices and private growth, is where the next chapter begins. Looking back at the moment Amy was suddenly pulled from TLC, it hits differently now. What felt like abrupt punishment transforms into a crossroads layered with pressure, visibility, and responsibility. Fans saw the shock headline, but the full picture shows a complex collision of behavior, scrutiny, and the consequences of public life. Every decision, every post, every on-screen reaction was part of a chain reaction that no one could pause. We've traced the rise, the missteps, the network's calculus, and the emotional toll on family and viewers. What initially looked like a simple scandal is actually a story about how fame magnifies human behavior and how the structures around it shape outcomes just as much as personal choices do. The audience learns that accountability exists alongside empathy, and that public perception can be both a mirror and a magnifier. The chapter does not close here. Amy's journey continues off camera, and the ripple effects are far from over. Networks, fans, and family all play roles in what comes next. And the story will keep unfolding in ways that challenge instinct, loyalty, and judgment. Next, we'll explore how reality TV handles the fallout when the ripple spreads beyond one star, and why those consequences often hit others harder than anyone expects.